Good morning and welcome, and what a lovely spring morning it is. Just look how gorgeous it is here at Site B. Spring is here momentarily. Let us enjoy it as we go for another walk, where I talk and walk and you listen to the nonsense that comes out of my mouth. You're like a captive audience. Blah, DM tips. Yeah, DM tips. And I know we've done this one before, but it always feels like it needs to be repeated. And not that I am the end-all, be-all, single best expert on gaming. In fact, I'm an idiot. I rarely know what I'm talking about. But in my 40-some-odd years of playing this ridiculous game and listening to other people and watching other people, I think I have a semi-decent perspective. So when people ask me the question like, what's the best DM advice you can give, blah, 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 and all the permutations of that question, it usually boils down to, for me anyways, there's like three answers. You know, the first answer is just start small. The second answer is be prepared. And that's that's the one I want to explore today, the be prepared. And there's three subcategories for be prepared, and we're gonna go through them, okay? Oh, and the third is trust yourself. Just trust yourself. That's the third one, okay? I forgot to say the third bit of advice is just have faith in yourself. So be prepared. 1, read the damn books and read the module. If you're running an adventure, read the adventure, know the adventure, be prepared to run the adventure. If there are encounters in the module or adventure or whatever you don't understand, make sure you've read up on them before you start playing. If there's a treasure and it says, you know, don't just pause middle of the game to roll 20 times on the random treasure generator because you didn't take the 5 extra seconds to figure out the treasure ahead of time. Morning. Roll the treasure. Now obviously you can't roll the treasure for every random encounter, but have some preset treasure blocks that you can just rapidly put out so you don't have to spend time. Read the module, read the adventure. Even if it's an adventure you wrote, read it. Read the rules. Be prepared for the encounters. Be prepared for, you know, what treasure that the encounters have. Be prepared if they choose to talk to the encounter rather than fight the encounter. Just give yourself the permission to read, to understand, to be prepared ahead of time. I mean, really, it just breaks down to be prepared ahead of time. Nobody wants the game to suddenly stop while you spend 20 minutes looking something up. You should know that ahead of time. Make sure your players are also prepared. Give them time. I mean, we only play once a week for like 2-3 hours a week at our age, so an hour of that playtime should not be players and the DM arguing over what spells they have, how much experience points they have, whether a bow can be shot in water or not. I don't know if I have that equipment. You've got an entire week and you've got access to the internet. Ask those questions before the game, after the game, or during the game. Make sure that once the game officially starts, all your players are prepared. They know their spells, they know their equipment, they know their hit points, they know their armor class, they know what's going on. If they've leveled, make sure they level before the game starts. Again, you want to be prepared so that the story doesn't break down. I mean, imagine watching a movie, okay, unless it's a comedy movie. Imagine watching a movie, 3 books, you know, your favorite movie, and in the middle of your favorite scene in your favorite movie, morning, it stops and the main characters just start talking to the director because they forgot their lines and they don't know if their blaster has 3 or 4 shots, or if they forgot to, you know, whatever. And then the next 20 minutes of the movie is listening to these actors and the director talk about stuff that has nothing to do with the movie, and then the movie starts again. And you're like, wait, what? So make sure your players are prepared. Okay? And the third and most important one is a direct opposite of the first one. What? No, wait, what? So if the first one is be prepared, read everything, know everything, have everything planned out ahead of time, well then rule 3 is give yourself permission to make shit up. Give yourself permission to tell yourself it's okay if they do something you weren't expecting. Because even if it's the most strictest of railroad adventures with a clear, definitive beginning, middle, and end, there is a 89 to 100% chance your players will still find some way to circumvent that and to do something that nobody counted on. But you're gonna do what with the what? There's nothing in here on that. I guess I'm just gonna wing it. Give yourself permission to wing it. You cannot cover every single solitary possible thing that they're gonna do in this scenario. So don't freak out, don't table flip, don't lose your temper. Just go with it. Open your mind, your imagination, and just run with it. And if they take the adventure in a completely different direction that you weren't expecting, that's great, because it shows their excitement, it shows their investment, it shows that their brains are clicking and working. And okay, so that wasn't what was planned, and I don't know how you got to the conclusion that the cook murdered the king, especially since there is no cook and I never mentioned a cook, but I'm gonna run with it. Give them that. Give yourself that. Don't hold yourself up to the standard that you have to be as good as some guy who's been running for 50 years. You have to be as good as Matt Mercer. You have to be as good as Matt Colville. You have to be as good as the OG GM. You have to be as good as Bro SR. You have to be as good as this YouTube DM or this YouTube DM. No, you don't. You just have to be the best you can be at that point in time running the scenario. Because you need to be prepared, but you also need to be prepared to throw all your preparations to the side and run with it, and just let that flow go, let that interactiveness go, because that's when you're riffing off each other and all the players are working and you're working together to take the story to its planned ending, and you get to grandmother's house and you give her the medicine, everything's fine, or a completely different ending where, all right, so you're gonna run off with the cook because you think he was framed. All right, let's run with that. Where are you gonna run off to? Because there's a bunch of people chasing you with the cook. By the way, I never mentioned there was a cook, but okay, this cook now exists and you're running off with her. Let's see where this goes, and maybe I can fit some of the adventure back into this. And that goes to something I've said before hundreds of times. You can move stuff, right? That's part of being prepared, and that's part of reading the adventure. You can take encounter 16A and move it. I mean, if the encounter 16A is the most important encounter in the story and it contains the MacGuffin to move the story along, but they're not going there, move it. Just move it, reskin it. Give yourself the permission to wing it. Okay, they're supposed to meet the priest and something, but that's not happening. How can I reskin the priest? How can I reskin this where I need to get the same basic plot devices incorporated in some way, shape, or form? Maybe not the way I was expecting, but that's okay, because I've given myself the freedom to believe myself. I've prepared myself that I know the whole story, and I know the rules, and I know what all my NPCs can do, and I know what all the characters can do, and they're all prepared, so we don't have to spend 20-30 minutes arguing over torches or levels or whether that can happen or not, or how many spells I have or don't have. No, we're all ready, we're all going, we're all clicking, And now they've done something that I didn't expect. But that's okay, because we're running with it. And maybe I can find some way to Lego fit this encounter back in at a later point. I know I can do this if it needs to be done, because I trust myself and I've prepared and I understand the encounter and I understand my players and I understand the basic story. You know, I don't have plans, I don't have adventure plans, I have adventure ideas. My idea for the adventure was X. They're choosing to go a different direction. There are still beats in X that I can still use. There's still things that I think are cool that I could probably throw in, and maybe I'll save this for later. Maybe we'll never revisit it again, but at least I know it's out there. And maybe somehow, despite all their attempts to the contrary, they get themselves back on track and they end up where they needed to go anyways. So there's no real bad ideas. Again, as long as you've prepared and as long as you've given yourself permission to fuck up, to make mistakes, to wing it, but to always have that at the end of the day, it's still your story. You're still in charge of the world. You're still trying to tell this series of events in some format, and they're enjoying it and interacting with it and responding to it and pushing on to the next event and making the world work. They're the tools that make the world work, but it's still your world. And again, if you're prepared to answer their questions before the game starts, if you're prepared to tell them, hey, make sure you're all up to date because I don't want to break the game for 20 minutes because you don't know how many spells you have, or you're not sure whether you leveled or not, okay? That's discussed before the game or after the game or in the week between games. I prepared, so I know exactly how much treasure this encounter has. I prepared, so all my players are ready to go, and I prepared myself on the off chance that the OGGM decides to talk to the monsters instead of fight them. I've prepared myself in case Susan decides that the party needs to follow the stream downriver, even though the adventure doesn't cover that. I prepared myself to respond if Eric decides that the cook needs to be saved, or that Jay decides, oh no, the cook was the murderer and we need to stop the cook, even if there was no cook. And this happens. This happens. I'm not making that up. I was like, what blacksmith? This happened in an adventure I ran where they were like convinced the blacksmith was the murderer, and I was like, there is no blacksmith. I never mentioned a blacksmith. Where did you get blacksmith? But somehow something I said convinced them there was a blacksmith, and I could have just pulled up the reins, but no, I ran with it. I said, fine, there's a blacksmith, and I ran with it. Didn't take that much time. I just reskinned another NPC. I changed some encounters around. It still ended up working in a weird way, and that's what's important. So that's my GM advice for today. Be prepared, and be prepared. Thank you.